There is a button in the game Ico that serves no real gameplay purpose. It doesn't swing your sword, it doesn't make you jump, it doesn't solve a puzzle. All it does is call out. A single, short syllable shouted into the vast, empty space. And most of the time, nothing answers. There is only the wind, whipping through the crenellations of a castle that feels less like a building and more like a mountain someone carved into a cage. But then, you meet her, Jorda, pale, ethereal, speaking a language you don't understand. And suddenly, that button has a purpose. You hold it down and you reach out your hand. And she takes it. And you feel it. A gentle tug, a connection. And now you don't just walk through this world. You pull, you guide, you protect. This one simple, mechanically useless action recontextualizes everything. It becomes the anchor point for the entire emotional experience. I've been thinking a lot about that feeling, that button. Why does a game released in 2001 with a story you could write on a postcard still occupy so much space in my head? It's because the story of Ico isn't just told in the castle. The story is the castle. The loneliness, the scale, the desperation, the hope. It's all baked into the stones. The game's director, Fumito Ueda, and his team at Team Ico didn't just build levels, they crafted a language of space. They practiced something we can call emotional architecture. And it's a language that, once you learn to recognize it, you start to see it everywhere. It's in the lonely quiet of a world after the end, the oppressive concrete of a government bureau, the unsettling familiarity of a hallway you feel you have walked 1,000 times before. It's the art of making a place make you feel something, and it may be one of the most powerful and subtle tools in a game designer's arsenal. And today, we're going to talk about that and much more. Welcome to Beat Views. Let's get right into it. To understand emotional architecture, you have to start with Fumito Ueda. He's a designer who famously operates on a principle he calls design by subtraction. The idea is simple, but radical. You don't design by adding more things, more mechanics, more UI, more tutorials. As a matter of fact, that's a death trap for any new young developer, as we all try to add everything we want to do for the game we all want to make and play. Fumito Ueda, however, says that you should design by taking things away, until only the essential, core experience remains. It's a philosophy that runs counter to so much of modern game design, which is often obsessed with giving the players constant feedback, constant goals, and a constant stream of information. Ueda's games are quiet. They trust you. They are confident enough in their core ideas that they don't need to scream them at you. His three major works, what I like to call the Ueda trilogy, and to be fair, sadly the only games we had from the master, are each a masterclass in this philosophy, and each one explores a different facet of connection through the spaces we inhabit. Ico is about vulnerability and dependence. The castle isn't just big, it's designed to separate you. Gaps you can leap, but Jorda can't. Ledges you can climb, but she can't. Every single room is a test of your bond. The architecture creates the problem, and the hand-holding mechanic is the solution. The puzzles aren't about finding a key card. They are about figuring out how to get your friend from point A to point B. The entire game is one long, beautiful, frustrating escort mission. And that's the point. The frustration you feel when Jorda gets captured is real. The relief you feel when you save her is earned. The game's famous visual style, with its oversaturated bloom lighting, makes the world feel like a half-remembered dream, or a Renaissance painting. It's beautiful, but it's a cold beauty. It's the beauty of a museum, a place for things that are already dead. If Eco was about connection in confinement, Shadow of the Colossus is about isolation in an endless expanse. And this is where design by subtraction becomes something truly breathtaking. Team Eco built a massive, gorgeous open world and put almost nothing in it. There are no towns, no NPCs, no side quests, no random enemy encounters. There is only you, your horse, your sword, your bow, a mysterious voice, and 16 targets. The space between the colossi is the game. The long, quiet rides across misty plains, through ancient forests, and over crumbling desert sands. It's during these journeys that the weight of your task settles in. There is no triumphant music, no chatter from a sidekick. There is just the wind and your thoughts. The game gives you the time and the space to question, what are you doing? And the architecture here isn't just the shrine of worship at the center of the world. The colossi are the architecture. They are living, breathing, moving levels. You don't fight them in an arena. The arena is them. You scale their furry backs as if they were moss-covered cliffs. You hold on to stone-like protrusions as they try to shake you off. They aren't presented as monsters. They are presented as natural parts of this world. Ancient, majestic, and completely ambivalent to your existence until you provoke them. The tragic, mournful music that plays when you fell one. It's not a victory fanfare. It's a eulogy. The game makes you the monster, and the vast, empty world is your silent accuser. It's a space that feels lonelier and more desolate with every life you take. Which brings us to The Last Guardian, the troubled, long in development conclusion to the trilogy. And this game is about something even more complex: earning trust. Trico, the magnificent bird, dog, cat creature, is not your loyal steed Agro. He's not the dependent Yorda. Trico is a wild animal, and he is a masterpiece of AI design, specifically because he's often disobedient, distracted, and frustrating. Exactly like your pet. He doesn't always listen to you. He will get spooked by a stained glass eye. He will stop to scratch his ear or chase a butterfly when you are desperately trying to get him to jump across a chasm. And the architecture is built entirely around this messy, unpredictable relationship. The world, known as The Nest, is a series of towering, interconnected ruins. It's impossible to traverse alone. You need Trico to leap across massive gaps, to smash through walls. But Trico needs you to pull spears from his hide, to feed him glowing barrels, to soothe him when he is afraid. This game is, for many, a test of patience. But that frustration is the point. You don't just press a button to tame Trico. You earn his trust over hours and hours of shared struggle. The space is the obstacle, and your relationship is the key. When that moment finally clicks, when you call him and he looks at you, and you just know he understands, and he makes the leap, it's one of the most powerful feelings in all of gaming, because it feels real. So, through these three games, Ueda shows us a blueprint. Emotional architecture isn't about making pretty places. It's about creating spaces that generate a feeling: vulnerability, loneliness, trust, and then building the core mechanics of the game around that feeling. The space isn't the backdrop for the story. The space is the story. But Ueda didn't invent this in a vacuum. He was channeling ideas and feelings that have existed in architecture, in art, and in our own subconscious for centuries. To really understand how deep this goes, we need to take a detour. We need to talk about concrete. This is brutalism, an architectural movement that flourished from the 1950s to the 70s. Its name comes from the French béton brut, meaning raw concrete, and it is divisive. To its critics, it's ugly, inhuman, totalitarian even, the stuff of dystopian nightmares. To its defenders, it's honest, functional, and socially progressive. But whatever your opinion, you can't deny it makes you feel something. Brutalist buildings are heavy, imposing. They dominate their surroundings with a sense of stark, unadorned power. They don't try to be pretty, they just are. Now, look at this. This is the oldest house, the setting for Remedy's Control. It is a masterpiece of digital brutalism. The game's Federal Bureau of Control is a place of incomprehensible power and unknowable secrets. And its architecture screams this at you from every frame. The vast empty halls, the repeating geometric patterns, the way the space itself violently shifts and reconfigures, it creates a sense of awe, but also of profound alienation. You are a trespasser in a place of power that is utterly indifferent to you. The building itself is a cold, concrete god. Game designers love brutalism for a reason. It's a visual shortcut to a feeling. It can communicate order, power, dystopia, or even a kind of a stark, minimalist beauty. It's emotional architecture at its most, well, brutal. But what about the opposite feeling? Not the feeling of being overwhelmed by space, but the feeling of being the only one left in it. There is a word for this, coined by John Koenig in his Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows: kenopsia. The eerie, forlorn atmosphere of a place that's usually bustling with people, but is now abandoned and quiet. A school hallway on a weekend. An office building after midnight. Kenopsia is the feeling that powers Shadow of the Colossus. The Forbidden Lands aren't just empty, they feel emptied. The ruins that dot the landscape are evidence that this place was once alive. Now, it's just you. This profound sense of absence creates a quiet melancholy that permeates the entire experience. You are walking through the ghosts of a world. This idea has found a strange and powerful new life in internet culture, which you may have heard of recently in a lot of places, with the concept of liminal spaces. Liminality, from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold, refers to a state of being in between, a transitional state, and a liminal space is a physical reflection of that. A hallway, a waiting room, a staircase, an airport terminal late at night. These are places you pass through, not places you stay. They are designed for function, not comfort. And when you linger in them, they feel wrong, unsettling. They provoke a low-grade anxiety because you feel like you are not supposed to be there. You are between worlds. No game has weaponized liminality more effectively than PT. Its infamous looping hallway is the ultimate liminal space. It's a threshold that never leads anywhere new, only back to itself. But each time, it's a little bit different. A little bit more wrong. It traps you in the transition, and it's one of the most terrifying experiences ever created. So, brutalism, kenopsia, liminality, these aren't just academic terms, they are tools. They are different ways of using a space to provoke a deep, often primal, emotional response. They are the vocabulary of emotional architecture. And In the years after Ueda, a new wave of indie developers took this vocabulary and started writing their own sentences. Take Journey. On the surface, you could say it's very similar to Shadow of the Colossus, a silent protagonist in a vast, desolate world heading towards a singular goal. But the feeling is entirely different. Where Shadow of the Colossus is melancholic and tragic, Journey is hopeful and spiritual. Its architecture isn't about a forgotten past, but a shared pilgrimage. The world is a temple, and your journey through it is a prayer. And its most brilliant stroke of emotional design is its anonymous multiplayer. You can meet another player, another real person, on the same pilgrimage. You can talk to them, you don't know their name, all you can do is chirp and walk together. And this simple, wordless companionship becomes incredibly profound. When you lose them, it's a genuine pang of sadness. When you find them again, it's a moment of pure joy. Journey uses the kenopsia of his vast desert to make you crave connection. And then it gives you that connection in its purest, most uncomplicated form. And then there is the other side of the coin. If Journey is the hopeful evolution of Ueda's work, Playdead's Inside is the paranoid, deeply cynical evolution. This is a world of pure oppression. Its architecture is a mix of industrial decay and horrifying corporate science. It's a world of straight lines, sharp angles, and deep shadows. It feels like a brutalist nightmare come to life. There is no hope here, there is no companionship, there is only forward momentum, a desperate push through a world that wants to either control you or consume you. The space is a relentless conveyor belt moving you towards a horrifying conclusion. The emotional architecture of Inside is designed to create a constant, low-humming dread. It's the feeling of being a cog in a machine you don't understand, a machine that is grinding you into dust. This focus on environment and feeling, often at the expense of traditional mechanics, led to the rise of a new subgenre and a new pejorative, the walking simulator. The term implies a lack of gameplay. It suggests that if all you're doing is moving through a space and absorbing a story, you are not really playing, and it's not really a game either. And I get it. If you come to a game looking for skill-based challenges, complex combat, or intricate puzzles, these games can feel empty. But I think this critique misses the point. It operates on a very narrow definition of what gameplay can be. It's not the act of exploration gameplay. It's not the act of piecing together a narrative from environmental clues, a form of puzzle solving. It's not the navigation of space to create a feeling of awe or dread or sadness, a valid mechanical goal. The gameplay in these games is the experience of the space. Your primary interaction is with the emotional architecture itself. You are playing the environment. And to dismiss that is to dismiss one of the most unique and powerful things this medium can do. But let's be honest, it doesn't always work. Like any artistic tool, emotional architecture can be misused or simply fail. There is a fine line between minimalist and empty, between enigmatic and just plain confusing. Sometimes a world is just a pretty postcard, a beautiful, high-fidelity space that has no soul. It's all surface, no substance. The architecture is there, but it's not saying anything. It's just set dressing for a checklist of tired objectives. It has no emotional core. Other times, the pendulum swings too far into ambiguity. A game can be so subtle with its environmental storytelling that the player is left completely adrift, with no emotional anchor to hold on to. the experience becomes frustrating. Not because it's difficult, but because it feels meaningless. The power of Ueda's work is that it's always grounded in a simple, relatable emotional concept. Protect the girl. Avenge the lost one. Befriend the beast. The architecture serves that core. It doesn't replace it. When a game forgets that, it can crumble under the weight of its own artistic pretensions. So, where does it go from here? Well, Fumito Ueda is still working. His new studio, Gen Design, released a teaser that feels familiar. The sense of scale, the isolation, the hint of a bond between a small protagonist and a larger being. It seems like he's not done speaking this language of space. But others are picking up the vocabulary and adding new words. We are seeing procedural generation being used to create endless, kenopsia-inducing landscapes. We are seeing VR being used to truly communicate a sense of scale and presence that a flat screen never could. Imagine standing at the foot of a Colossus in virtual reality. Imagine feeling the vertigo of the Last Guardian's high places. We're seeing games that blend these techniques, using brutalist structures to house liminal horrors or creating vast empty worlds that tell deeply personal, character-driven stories. The tools are becoming more sophisticated, the artists more fluent. In the end, what makes this all so compelling is that it mirrors a fundamental human truth. We are all shaped by the spaces we inhabit. A childhood bedroom, a university library, the city you fell in love with, the office you grew to hate. These places become a part of our story. They hold our memories. They talk to us long after we have left them. Video games are unique in that they allow us to inhabit impossible places. The tomb of a forgotten god, the heart of a dystopian bureaucracy, the back of a flying beast. And the masters of this craft, the emotional architects, don't just build worlds. They build feelings. They build that moment of quiet contemplation before a monumental battle. They build that flash of terror in a hallway that feels just a little too long. And they build that simple, powerful connection. The feeling of reaching out in the dark and having someone take your hand.